Hello and welcome to the 12 Months to Marathon podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with marathon dreams. Episode 92, how to deal with running setbacks and running controversies. So I am going to talk about my own marathon, which I did nearly 2 weeks ago now in Boston, in Lincolnshire, here in the UK. And I also want to talk about some of the other major marathons that have been going on over the last couple of weeks. April, May are busy marathon months. So this month, we've already had Brighton here in the UK, we've had Manchester here in the UK, and then we've had Boston in the US. And as I record this, London is this weekend, so there's all the buzz around that. So I want to talk about my own marathon performance and how to deal with a setback or setbacks that you might face on the day. Or if you've just done a marathon, because I know a lot of people listening to this would have potentially done Manchester here in the UK, because that's a popular race, how you deal with setbacks, okay, and how you move forward from that. I also want to talk about some of the running controversies, I laugh, that have popped up on social media at the moment, because I do want to talk about that. Because I think it's important that, you know, I discuss how I see someone with a relative platform in terms of this space. So let's do that. So first and foremost, I did the Boston Marathon here in the UK, in Lincolnshire, a couple of weeks ago on the 12th of April. Now, it's an interesting one because it's very flat. I mean, on Strava, it had 28 foot of elevation gain. There wasn't even a humpback bridge. I mean, it's literally flat as a pancake. So you come out the city centre, which is a fairly small place, and then you literally hit fields. So you imagine a traditional sort of English or, say, American setup where it's just literally fields. There's no trees, there's no houses, there's no nothing. You are literally just running through fields. So whilst it was flat as a pancake, you are running on the road, but you are literally running through crop fields, cabbage fields, things like that. So you're very exposed. Now, that meant that there was a wind, and this wind, when we were on the way out, was going to the side of us and then a little bit behind us. But then at about half marathon distance, that became a headwind, and for about 4 to 5 miles it was a brutal headwind. I mean, in your face, and that basically wiped me out. So I was on for PB pace at around 10 miles. I didn't set out with the time in mind, because I don't do that, and this is a good bit of advice, I think, because sometimes if things don't go your way, this is your first tip, and you have a time, that can set you back. All right, so I didn't go out with any particular time in mind. I just said, well, I'll go out with a sub 3 pack. Let's see if I can get another sub 3. And I was on for that up until probably around 16 miles. But then, because there was a headwind, and I mean, it was 20 miles an hour headwind, it was brutal. It was like doing a resistance workout, so my quads were just mashed. So I got to about 18 and I decided, okay, this isn't my day. Let's just chill out and let's just take it back a peg and let's just finish up the race in the best I can. I finished in 3:05, which is my 5th fastest marathon ever. I'm 49 in a couple of months, so I'm not going to complain. I wasn't complaining. I was happy with that, because there was something that happened on the day that dictated my success, and it's something that's completely out of my control, which of course is the weather. The weather's completely out of your control. It's the one variable on the day that you can never account for, and I've never run in a headwind like that before. So there's two sides to this. So the first side is I accepted the fact that today wasn't my day. It wasn't going to be a sub 3 marathon or a personal best, so I sort of wound my neck in, as the expression goes. I could have pushed a little bit more, but what I didn't want to do was ruin the last 10k, because I knew I was kind of, energy levels were struggling. I knew I was going to come in at a relatively decent time, so I just wound it back in. Now, this is the first point. So how do you deal with that? Well, first and foremost is you can't control that. So did I do everything in my training to improve my time? Yes, to a certain degree, but there were things I could have improved on. I could have been a bit stronger, I think. I could have done more S&C. I could have been a bit lighter. I could have ate a bit better. I could have rested more. You know, there are things, little tweaks, nothing major, that I could have done. So how do you deal with marathon setbacks? First and foremost is you've got to allow the emotion. So you've got to allow the disappointment. Allow that to go through you if you are disappointed. Allow it to go through you. Don't try and suppress it. Don't pretend it's not a problem. Allow it to go through you. So a little bit maybe I was disappointed, because there's a mindset of mine, which is I should have stayed with that pack. I should have stayed with those lads. I should be in that sub 3 group. That was my first mindset. And when I was able to sit there and put it into perspective, I was like, yes, but I wasn't in that place today. That wasn't me. And, you know, a lot of the people running around me were a little bit older, but I'm like, little bit younger, and things like that. So I have to put things into perspective to where I am. But the truth is, I could have performed better if certain things were tweaked. My strength, my prep could have been a bit sharper. There are things that could have been sharper. I got there a bit late the night before. I maybe ate a little bit late. I maybe rushed my food. Little things that we can always manage. It was an early start, so I had to get up a little bit earlier and then eat quite early. Little things that won't move the needle massively, but will make up those 1% that perhaps you need on the day. So the process, a good way to look at this is something called the PRP process, which is permission to be human, which is number one, I'm disappointed, I'm annoyed, feel free to use swear words there, which are okay. It's okay to be that. That's human. That makes you human. When you acknowledge your feelings and you face them and deal with them, that's better than suppressing them or pretending it's not a problem or soothing them with something, just potentially destructive. So that's the first stage. Go through the annoyance. The second stage is reconstruct. So what positive can come from this experience? Well, for me, it's like, okay, yes, there's not a great deal you could have done about that headwind, but there are things you could have refined. And then the third thing is perspective. Will it matter in 6 months? Probably not. When I go out for my next marathon, the almighty willing, then that won't be a problem. I won't think about that, but I will learn from it. So the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is stay in that phase of beating yourself up constantly, because you will just make yourself feel worse. And no amount of making yourself feel worse is going to change the result. Yeah. So I had, in my coaching community, 6 people do marathons, Brighton, 3 did Brighton, 3 did Manchester, and everybody performed at the level that was expected, okay? But that's rare because, things happen. We've got some doing London this weekend we've got a few injuries going on. We've got a few setbacks and things happen. And sometimes you've got to accept it for what it is. Did you control everything you could have controlled? If the answer was yes, most of it, great. If the answer was yes, but there's things I could do better, that's not personal. Don't take it as personal. Permission to be human. Allow yourself to be annoyed. Move forwards. Move on as quick as possible and move on by saying, I can do better. How do I do better? I've had loads of messages this week from people who said, I've just done X marathon. I want to do better. How do I do that? And that's the mindset. How do I solve this? How do I get better? And move on to that quickly, because no amount of feeling bad about yourself is going to achieve anything. So you need to move through that really, really quickly. And the classic I get is that's easier said than done. Well, everything's easier said than done, isn't it? So let's move on and let's focus on getting better. So for me, lessons learned. I'm not going to cry on my coffee. I was overweight, miserable, smoking, unhealthy, unfit at 28 years old. I'm not going to beat myself up for doing a 3:05 at 40, nearly 49, basically. A few weeks and months off 49. I'm not going to beat myself up for that, and you shouldn't either if that's the place that you're in, okay? So that's how to deal with marathon setbacks, really. So remember that PRP process. That's really important. So permission to be human, reconstruct and perspective. Allow yourself to be annoyed. What positive can come from this? And in 12 months, will this matter? No, especially if you go out again and do another marathon and learn from what happened. So that's how to deal with marathon setbacks. Nice and simple. Not easy. Running controversies. So there's been 2. There's been the Nike thing in Boston, which you probably know about. If you don't, fair play to you. And then the Joe Wicks thing here in the UK. So firstly, the Boston thing. So Nike did a very controversial marketing ploy, which was a sign that said runners welcomed, walkers tolerated. And everybody lost their minds. Okay. Now, let's put some perspective on this. Number one, the Boston Marathon in the US, from what I can gather, is usually targeted at a certain type of runner because it's a qualifying run, okay? So people have to qualify that with a time unless you've got a charity space, yeah? So actually what Nike were doing there was actually speaking to that specific person, because what you've got to bear in mind about marathons is for most of the time marathons have been around, they have primarily been running events. So people run marathons, and then if you have to walk, you have to walk. The key here is not to take anything too seriously and not to judge things too much and judge yourself, yeah? So if you have to walk during a marathon, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you for doing that. It just happens sometimes. I nearly walked in Boston. It was that, but the wind was that bad. I was like, I'm just going to walk the last mile because I was just spent. You know what I mean? I didn't, but I could have. I felt like doing it. So it's okay to do that. What's not okay is being nasty to everybody. You have to understand everyone's got a different opinion here. So if you have walked a marathon, then I could see why that would potentially bother you a little bit. But then on the flip side, if somebody's done a Boston qualifying time and they can't get in, and then they see somebody walking, then whether you agree with it or not, they've probably got a little bit of a right to be aggrieved. Yeah? You've got to see both sides of the fence. Now, the That's both sides of the fence from a human point of view. The overall vision of this is the fact that this is a promotional thing. It's a marketing thing. And it was deliberate. It wasn't an accident. They don't regret it. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew exactly what it would cause. And it caused what they wanted, which was a storm. Now, they don't care. Unless every single solitary person in the world stops buying their products, they couldn't care less. That's not going to happen. So what we need to do, I think, in terms of that is accept what it is first, common sense, which is it's a marketing thing. It's not personal to anybody. It is just a poster at the end of the day. And what I think we need to do as humans is be a bit more resolute and say, I don't like that, but I'm not going to let that affect me personally, because your marathon experience is your marathon experience. And however you do that, you should do it confidently and not let a poster stop you from doing that. Vice versa, if you've run a really fast time, for example, and you could qualify for a big major race and you don't get in, I understand why somebody might be aggrieved. What's not acceptable is going on the internet and shouting at people or calling people names. That's not acceptable. But if you're annoyed by that, I get it. What's not acceptable is, and that's both sides of the fence, by the way, it's not okay for the walkers to shout at people either. Yeah? It's not okay on both sides. This community is about togetherness and spirit. And it should be a distraction from that binary stuff in the world. If we get pulled into that, and I've seen influencers, whatever you want to call it, getting political about all this running stuff, which is fine, I don't run for that. I run to take me away from that. And if we start bleeding it in, for me, in my world, that's a problem. That's the first one. So understand everyone's got a different opinion. Everybody's got a right to have their opinion. Everybody's got a right to be annoyed by things. But just remember the key principles. It's a big company. They're going to do stuff like that. It is just a poster after all. And 3, if you're confident about what you do, be confident about what you do and do it. Yeah. And be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Yeah. The final bit is the Joe Wicks thing. Those of you in the UK will know about this. Those of you not in the UK may not know who he is, so I apologise. So basically, Joe Wicks is a very famous fitness person who is basically a brand. He's made himself a brand, basically. So he will be the face of many things in the public eye because he's very marketable. And one of the things he's done is he is, quote unquote, training Daddy Pig from Peppa Pig to run the London Marathon for a charity, right? So it's a big marketing thing, which is part of the whole thing of London Marathon. It's an event. It needs to be marketed. It needs to be promoted. And obviously they're going to get a recognisable face like Joe to do that. You know, they'll ask me, are they? They're going to ask him whether or not he's a marathon coach or not, which he's not. So anyway, so he went on a podcast and said some things that were potentially questionable in terms of marathon advice about how much water you should drink and what you should eat in the morning. And everybody's gone in after him, right? Now, the criticism is fine, but the problem is it goes back to a lack of understanding. If someone's giving bad marathon advice, and I know marathon coaches who give quote-unquote bad marathon advice, don't listen to it. Going on the internet and shouting about it, again, for me, is not going to fix the problem. Just don't listen to the advice. And if you're following the advice of somebody who's not a marathon coach, no matter how prominent they are, that's the problem. It's like one of these ones where people follow the advice of a TV doctor on an advert for medication, which has happened because he's a TV doctor. Well, he's not a real doctor, is he? Joe Wicks is the same. He's a front for an organisation. He's not a marathon coach. They're not going to ask a proper marathon coach to train Daddy Pig for the London Marathon because he's not marketable. Yeah. So what we need to do again there is, yes, be annoyed by whatever. Don't listen to the advice. Get a proper marathon coach. Get the proper advice. There's tons of it online. You can get loads of it online. Good advice as well. You know, and then do your research and test. So what we want to do here is make sure that, again, we're okay to be annoyed by it, PRP and all that again, but we take it for what it is, which is bad advice, and that's okay. We don't need to lose our minds about it. It's not going to change because people like that who go beyond what they represent, they become a brand, will give potentially bad advice because they're not dealing with everyday marathon runners. Yeah, and if there's no point getting angry about it, it's not going to change. Just don't listen to it and follow the right advice. Come and follow me at 12 Months to Marathon on Instagram, and hopefully I'll point you in the right direction to my 16 marathons after 35. And I'm still learning, you know, but there's no point, again, getting angry because that then causes the problem of separation, binary, you're wrong, I'm right. No, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that way? Let's meet in the middle, not you're this, you're that, you're the other. Yeah, that's the bigger problem at play here, I think. And I don't think that's controversial. So I think every opinion's got its place and everything should be brought to the table. So in conclusion, number 1, Marathon setbacks, PRP, go again. You can always go again. Don't take it as permanent. What are the lessons? Move on. Secondly, be confident about what you do. Understand common sense and how the world works, marketing, promotion, and yes, debate things, yes, talk about things, but be nice to one each other. And remember, for me, the running community should be taking us away from the problems in the world, because that's where people really get at each other, and that's what causes the problem. You know, when we're divided, that's a problem, because there's the reason why the phrase divide and conquer exists. And then finally, don't take bad marathon advice. There's no point getting angry about it. It's not going to change. And if something doesn't seem right or sit right with you from an advice point of view, don't listen to it and then go and get the proper advice. That's the best way to do it. Okay. And on that note, if you're new to the podcast, feel free to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, Apple or Spotify. I appreciate it. If you're a long-term listener, please make sure to share this podcast or like it, drop me a comment, and also drop me a star review on Spotify. The reviews really, really help me. I'd appreciate that as well. If you want some proper advice, hopefully, or some continued support, banter and fun, follow me at 12 Months to Marathon on Instagram. And if you click the link in my bio, you can go over there and you can subscribe and join my free running community for the over 35s, where we'll take you away from the noise of social media and hopefully give you some support and accountability over there. So if you are running London this weekend, go well. It's a fantastic event. I've been blessed to do it twice. Enjoy the event. And then, yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you all very soon indeed.